Welcome back to the Business Forum Show. I'm Kevin Hunter with Amy Nelson, and we're visiting with Randy Smith from Randy's Electric. And you alluded to the fact, Randy, that you have meetings with your staff every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when your guys would typically show up out to the jobs at 8 o'clock. Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's at 9 o'clock because you take some time to talk about what?
Well, that's a good question. We talk about a number of things. We talk about presentation and people skills and how to get along with the customer, respecting their homes, how we enter their homes. It's really easy to blow past the customer. These are technical guys. It's really easy to not see what the customer needs when they meet you at the door. So we talk about what we say, how we say it, how we use floor savers. We put on our shoes right at the front door. Now in the wintertime, you can't track wet stuff in. So how do you practically step into somebody's house when your feet are all muddy and wet? We talk all that stuff through. And then we talk about looking at the thing and making sure that they know the price before you pull out your tools and start doing something. We don't want to take people by surprise and run over the customer. It's so easy to know what they, that is to say, we think we know what they need. And we are going to tell them, because we're the experts, so we're going to tell them what they need. But really, you can't do it that way. You have to come to an agreement. You have to understand the customer's mind and what they want and how they'd like to have it done. And so it's way more nebulous than straightforward. So we talk all that stuff through, and this happened to me today, and that happened to me today. And so we always spend some time working on that, and then we spend some time working on, the electricity was on at this part of the house, but not that part of the house, and I did it by this and this and this, and somebody also say, but if you did it this way and this way and this, and we share our knowledge so that we all get better. So we all want to be better every day.
Well, when you think about that, when you mentioned that it's the electrician really has to understand and interpret what the customer needs, and then do a good job of kind of them walking through what needs to be done and illustrating it in a fashion that they can understand it. Because, when you were mentioning about that, years ago, one of the guys that I had hired on a crew, and he was framing houses for an organization that I had a part ownership in. He was a fabulous framer, one of the best you could find, and amazingly fast. And one of the reasons why I hired him is back in my younger years getting out of high school, that was one of the things that I thought I wanted to do and did for a couple of summers. And myself and the other guy that we worked with, we had the fastest two-man framing crew of all the guys. So it was like this little piece of pride. So when I hired this guy, he was like, he could go out and frame a house with me and keep up with me. I'm going, this guy's amazing. And so I put him in charge of a crew and got 3 other framers to work with him. And the work actually slowed down.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, what's the challenge here? What's the issue here? And it came down to the fact that he could not teach other people how to do what he did.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so initially there's always a case that no matter, I even noticed this for myself, I could take somebody alongside of me who didn't have skills and bring them along, but my initial days, like maybe in the first week or so, would be less productive because I was spending time teaching these other people how to do what needed to be done in conjunction with trying to get the job done. And so for a certain period of time, this person was more of a hindrance to me than a help. But this gentleman never got to a point to where his crew was really a big help to him. It seemed like, every time I went to the job site later when I was looking at this, that he was working like gangbusters, and these other 3 guys are like, what do you want me to do next? What do you want me to do next?
Yeah.
And so when I think about somebody like him and going out to like one of your clients and he's by himself, would he do a good job of illustrating to the customer, understanding their needs and then illustrating them what they need, what needs to be done? Maybe not, because he's a guy that's used to looking at a pile of lumber and envisioning how it looks like a garage in 2 days and doing it all by himself.
Right.
And you're going, wow, but not everybody needs that.
You need to be able to impart that to people and paint the word picture so that they can see what you see. And if you can't bring people along with you and have them learn it, then you're great doing it. But that's all you're going to do. You're just going to do it. My dad told me that for the first 6 months I worked with him, I slowed him down. Now, I'm I'm grown up now, so I made $3 an hour, and that was big money back then.
Yeah.
And that kept me in gas and cigarettes back then for a whole week, working
At the
on
same
Saturdays.
time, you're not supposed to smoke
No,
around.
well, that was construction sites back in the day. But he swore that I slowed him down because I had to ask so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
And with electrical, it's true. It's an investment to start with apprentices and work them through a journeyman's license and get them going. There's a lot to know, and you do, it definitely costs you time.
Well, I think that, that's something that I think about a lot is nobody, in my opinion, nobody really enjoys taking the time to train somebody because it takes longer, it's more frustrating, they ask questions, it's a hindrance, you slow me down. But if you do take the time in the beginning, they will be far more productive and most likely to stay at the end because they feel like there's a commitment and there's a value and they feel productive and normally happy in what their job is. We were talking a little bit about how long does it take to have somebody get a journeyman's license?
Okay, well, that's an excellent question.
Yeah, if you hire somebody new, how long does it take?
Well, if you hire them fresh off the street and they just go to work for you, and then it takes 4 years of, I believe, 2,000 hours per year before you're allowed to take the journeyman's test in Minnesota. Now, if you go to trade school, you can go to trade school for 2 years, through a community college or whatever, and then you would need to work for 3 years with 2,000 hours apiece.
Wow.
So that would be a 5-year investment before you can take the test. I believe the last statistic I heard, Minnesota had gotten really crazy about the journeyman's test. For a while, 2% of people were passing it the first time.
Wow.
Now I believe it's more like 10 to 15% are passing it the first time. So we're back towards a little bit more normalcy. But it used to be that if you took the test and didn't pass it, it would take you had to wait 6 months before you could take it again.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Now they'll let you take it once a month.
Okay.
So at least that's my understanding. I've had my master's now for quite a long time, but that's my understanding. So it's changed a lot, but it's still quite an investment in your time and effort in order to get the license.
So when you're in that process of getting your 2,000 hours, do you have so many hours that are supervised, or are you able to work on your own, but then have?
No, you're not able to work on your
Oh.
own. A journeyman has to be on an electrical job at all times.
Wow.
So he can have an apprentice with him. The apprentice would have to be in the same building. You're not allowed on big job sites. I don't know exactly how close they follow you around. If you're working on a factory and there's 8 buildings, I don't know exactly. But for us, we need to be in the house with the electrician. We can't be working next door and have an apprentice at one house and a journeyman at the other. We got to be working on the same place all the time. So if somebody has to run for parts, it has to be the apprentice
Wow.
because the journeyman has to be present on the job.
So this is why it's so difficult to find staff,
Yeah.
because you either want to hire a journeyman or you have this huge investment where now you have to have 2 people
Yep,
on at the same time.
that's correct.
And then with hiring the journeyman, you could well be looking at a guy who's been used to going into a job and just plow right through. And
Right.
and now he's looking at you and going, "You actually want me to talk to people?
Yep.
This is unreasonable."
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so you have to frame it, and this is one of the things you have to impart to people. You have to train them and help them understand you're in their house. It's you. Pretend it's your house. How would you want it done in your house? How would you like an interaction with a construction person in your house? And it takes a while for people to understand it and to be able to do it well, because you're paying attention to the technical aspects of the job. Say once you get going, okay, you do want us to put in the new smoke detector. So we're putting in the new smoke detector, and then you're walking around the bottom of our ladder babbling, and he's trying to focus on the task at hand. But he needs to have an ear open to what's going on with the customer. The customer's walking by and saying, every once in a while I think about a light in that other room. Oh, you do? Well, you paid the $49 to get us here today. We'd like to make sure that you know all your options at least, so that you're not paying another $49 to get another person out to your house. So we'll at least make sure that we give you a price for everything that's going around in your mind. So the electrician has to be paying attention all the time to what the customer's experience is and to the technical aspect of the job.
What's also interesting is you also don't want them to be too social, right?
Well, that's
so
true.
that they're the ones babbling, and the homeowner's like, "Are you going to get this job done or not today?"
That can be really frustrating.
Right? But there is that fine line of some
Yes, there
people
is.
don't take the verbal or nonverbal cues of homeowners. I remember I used to have a cleaning lady who I was like, she did a fabulous job, but every time when I was on maternity leave, I would be home and she would come and she would just talk to me, and I was trying to get work done, and I'm like, please shut up. And so I would literally leave the house when she would come because I knew I couldn't handle the babbling, and I'm like, just clean my house, please.
So I guess there's some good and bad in both directions, and finding that good balance is the real trick there. We're visiting with Randy Smith from Randy's Electric, and you can give them a call. I'm going to give you a different number than I did last segment, 763-560-5600. Again, 763-560-5600. Kevin Huntry here on the Business Forum Show with Amy Nelson. Our guest is Randy Smith from Randy's Electric. Back in a moment.